Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now that you spent your good hard-earned money on getting a generator, what are those things that you can do in order to make your generator last as long as possible? I'm going to go over a few things here that you can do to extend the life of your generator, and everything that I'm going to go over, ladies and gentlemen, is extremely inexpensive and easy to do. So first, before I go over the things that I have here in front of the generator, I'm going to tell you that I think that the best way to store your generator, if you can, when it's not in use, it's in a temperature controlled environment. The reason I say that is because very cold environments make things shrink. And then when it heats back up, it makes it expand. So when that contraction and expansion goes on over years, especially around your fittings, like your rubber hoses and things like that, it can wear them out and cause problems. So I always like to keep my small generators like this stored in a temperature controlled area, if at all possible. Another thing is someone mentioned to me that whenever we turn off a generator, we should allow it to run out of gas or turn off the gas supply to the carburetor so that the carburetor is not full of gas. Now, if you're storing your generator indoors in a temperature control room, I believe that that's okay to do. However, if you're storing it outside in the elements where it gets cold and hot, in my opinion, if the carburetor is empty, especially if you're storing it like over winter, if the carburetor is empty, it could cause condensation in there and maybe cause some problems down the line. So depending on where you're storing it would depend, in my opinion, on whether I left that carburetor full of gasoline or not. As you can see here, ladies and gentlemen, we have 10W30 oil, which is the oil that is required for this Firman generator. You'd have to check your owner's manual to make sure that the oil that you use for yours is the one that you purchase, because you want to make sure that you put the right oil in there that's recommended. Personally, I think that this will run just fine on 5W30. However, since I can buy 10W30, and that's what they recommend, then that's what I'm going to use. And I do always use a full synthetic oil to make sure that the parts inside this generator are fully protected or protected as much as they can. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to what gasoline you put in your generator, I would always recommend to try to find a gas station that sells gasoline that doesn't have any ethanol in it. I know that's getting harder and harder to do depending on where you live. However, I can't find any place around here in Fairbanks that does have gasoline with no ethanol. And I'm certainly not going to pay the $20 a gallon or so that they sell at like Lowe's or Home Depots of ethanol-free gasoline for you to use like in your trimmers and things like that. So what I did find is I found this product, and a lot of people are familiar with Stable, which is a gasoline stabilizer. But this product right here, this is a stable that protects against ethanol. So if the gasoline that you're using has ethanol, this stable not only protects the gasoline from getting too old too quick, but it also protects your equipment against the ethanol in the gasoline. So I would always recommend to go ahead and pick one of these up, because this is very cheap insurance to allow your machine to last longer. And this small bottle, by the way, is an 10-ounce bottle, and it treats up to 50 gallons of gasoline. So this will last you a very long time. So this is definitely something that I would recommend. And this is not something that I only use when I'm going to store my gasoline away. This is something that I use all the time. Normally, I use the regular Stable, but I went on the hunt to find something to see if it could combat the ethanol in the gasoline, since we don't have any gasoline in this area without ethanol in it. So definitely get yourself some Stable fuel stabilizer with ethanol protection in it. Another thing that I picked up on the cheap is this. I'll go ahead and take it out of the box in a second, but this is an oil plug, and it's a magnetic oil plug. And what it does is, if there's any kind of metal shavings inside of your engine, since these are new machines, it will go ahead and stick to the oil plug. So when you break in your machine or your generator, and when it starts getting a little bit older and maybe it has a little bit of metal shavings in it, this magnet here will pick up whatever shavings there are inside the engine, keeping them from causing havoc inside of your engine. And this is a very cheap item. I think it was like $7 or $8 to pick this up, and it's definitely well worth it. And these are pretty much universal as far as putting them in. Don't worry, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to put these in, and I'm going to show you how to install the next item that I think you ought to have in order to extend the life of your generator. The next thing, ladies and gentlemen, is how do you know when to service your generator? Well, in the instruction manual, it says that you ought to change the oil after 10 hours. That's considered the break-in period. But how do you know how many hours you've been running your generator if it doesn't come equipped with an hour meter? You can pick one of these up. This is a cheap hour meter, and it works perfectly. I've installed one in my old generator, the little blue one that I got, and I reviewed a while back. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to install this. It's a lot easier than what it looks. A lot of people are intimidated when they have to do some type of mechanical thing, but this I wouldn't even consider mechanical because that's how easy it is. So what I would do is I will go ahead and change the oil on my generator after the first 10 hours, which is the break-in period. After that, although it's recommended that you change it every 100 hours, ladies and gentlemen, why not do it every 25 to 50 hours? It couldn't hurt, and it's just going to extend the life of your generator because you're keeping the insides nice and clean and well lubricated with good quality oil. I mean, we're talking about less than $7 for a quart of oil, and we're not even going to use the whole thing, right? We're only going to use probably about half of that quart when we're done filling this up, because this only takes about 12 ounces of oil or so. So 1 quart of oil is going to last you 2 oil changes. So what does it hurt to change it between 25 and 50 hours instead of waiting the 100 hours that is recommended on the owner's manual? And of course, ladies and gentlemen, always remember to check your air filter. And now, ladies and gentlemen, although I'm not going to change the oil on this generator because I just purchased it, as most of you know who saw my review video, I am going to show you how to go ahead and install the oil plug, which is very simple. It's just a matter of taking the old one off and putting the new one on. And I'm going to show you how to install this hour meter, which maybe takes about 5 or 10 minutes, but it's not complicated at all. And I really want those of you that are not mechanically inclined to know that it is very easy to do this. It just takes a couple of minutes and maybe a couple of tools that you have around the house. Now, what we're going to need as far as tools are going to be a drill with a bit that will take your cover off. We're going to need a wire cutter and a small screwdriver set. That's all. It's not very complicated. You probably already have all of these things in your home. Most people may not have a wire cutter, but you can literally pick these up for a couple of dollars at any store. Now, the hour meter package, as you see here, comes with an hour meter. It comes with a wire. And it comes with a few zip ties, 2 small ones and 2 larger ones, of which I'm not going to use. I do believe they put these larger zip ties in here in case you wanted to go ahead and mount your hour meter using the zip ties. However, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to mount my hour meter using these 2 small screws that they provided. Now, most of you probably don't have the same generator that I have, but it's the same concept in any generator. You want to get access to your spark plug wire, and of course, you want to get access to your oil dipstick in order to be able to install those 2 items. So let's start off by taking off this cover. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now we have the cover off. All we have to do is get access to the spark plug wire, which is right here, and the oil dipstick, which is right there. Now that we have the front panel off and everything exposed, first thing we're going to do is the easiest thing. We're going to go ahead and take out this factory installed oil dipstick and install the new one. And as you can see, it does have oil on it. And what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to go ahead and clean this dipstick off. I'm going to put it with the parts bag that I have for this generator. And before I put the new dipstick in, I'm going to go ahead and take some of that oil and put it around this. You see this little O-ring right here? I'm going to put it around this O-ring so that when it goes on, it'll have a very good seat. And it's just as easy as taking this, putting it in here. Now, it may seem that this piece here is in the way. This is just like a little oil spout for when you change your oil, but this is made out of rubber and it's easy to manipulate. So it's still going to fit even though it looks like it may not, and it's not going to harm anything. And there we go. It's on there nice and snug. See, ladies and gentlemen, that is too easy, and that is good protection for the little engine you've got in here. Now what we need to do is we need to get this spark plug wire separated from the spark plug so that we can start putting the wire for the hour meter on it. So what you want to do is this is what goes onto the spark plug, all right? So you want to pull this up. So the way I do it is I go from the bottom, I put my finger in through here, and then I put one finger into here, and then I just pull up both at the same time. It may be difficult, you may have to wiggle it a little bit, especially since it's new. But there you go, it's not hard to do. All right, so now all we have to do is take this part, pull it out through here so that we can have the wire somewhat exposed. Let me go ahead and do that, bring it out so that you can see the wire and you can get a better view. So as you can see, my wire's right here. All you got to do is push it through here. And don't be worried, it's not going to hurt anything if this little rubber gasket here gets tossed around a little bit. But now you can see that we have our wire exposed. Now this is where little hands really do come in handy, all right? Because what we're going to need to do now is we're going to need to take this wire right here. We're going to need to wrap it around the spark plug wire 5 times and then secure it with the small zip ties, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see because it's very tight in here, all right? But all you have to do is take this wire, okay? You're going to wrap it around the spark plug wire around here 5 times and then secure it with the zip ties. I use both zip ties to secure both ends. And then make sure that you leave this wire that came with the hour meter in its complete length. You're going to end up having to cut it. So let's go ahead and do that now. So as you can see, now that I wrapped the wire about 5 times, I went ahead and stuck a little bit of the wire outside of this hole, and I went ahead and covered it so that it can assist me in holding it. Now I'm going to try and tighten this wire all the way around the other wire, the spark plug wire. I'm going to try and tighten it and have them in a nice little row. Now that I have this in a nice little row, I'm going to go ahead and put one of my zip ties on there to hold this. And now that I have one of my zip ties here, I'm going to use my wire cutters as a pair of pliers to pull it nice and tight. So that's there, nice and tight right now. There you go. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Make sure you don't cut off the spark plug wire when you're doing this. There you go, that's that easy. Now I'm going to get my other zip tie ready for this other wire right here. So before we tie it off, we're just going to go ahead and grab it from here. See? That was a nice little third hand that I had there. And right here, it's nice and tight now, as you can see. It's nice and tight in a row. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to give this one last twirl around so that we can have a little bit of slack for when we put on our zip tie. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to lie. This is kind of a pain in the butt, especially if you have big hands. If you have little hands, very easy to do. However, it is doable. You can see that I am able to control this and do this with my big mitts. It shouldn't be something that keeps you from being able to do it. We're just going to make sure that we have that last wire there in there, and I'm going to pull it tight. And you do want to make sure that this is pretty nice and snug, because you don't want this wire to rattle off as the generator is running. So now take a look at that. See how that looks? That's how you want it to look. I'm not going to lie, it was kind of a pain in the butt with my big fingers. So the smaller fingers and smaller hands you have, the easier this job will be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this zip tie off. And I'm also going to cut this little bit of excess wire off as well. And there you go. Now our wire is installed. We're good to go here. Now, before we continue with this wire, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our spark plug back on. It's just a matter of doing the opposite that you already did to take it off. Once you have it in there, all you have to do is push nice and hard until it seats. Now that it's properly seated, I'm just going to make sure that it is seated all the way. Because ladies and gentlemen, if you don't put this back on properly, your generator will not start. And looks good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we decide where we want to put our hour meter. I'm going to go ahead and put it right here, because this is where we're going to have to drill a hole. You're going to have to drill a small hole big enough for your wire to go through so that you can place your hour meter and then place your wire on your hour meter. Now, when you see how the wire on this hour meter goes, you're going to be amazed at how simple and easy it is. So I'm going to go ahead and drill a small hole right here. Let's see. Yes, I'm going to drill one right here where you can see right in the middle of this little notch up here. And then we'll be back so that we can put our wire through it and put our hour meter on, and then we'll be done. That's how easy this is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I took some insulation off the wire, about an inch or so. What I'm going to do in order to get it out of this hole is I'm just going to go ahead and splice it with another piece of wire, which I have because they give you extra. I'm going to splice it together and I'm going to bring it up through that hole. It should be pretty easy to do it that way instead of trying to find the hole from the bottom with your finger in this confined space. So all we have to do is just go ahead and put our wire in through here, bring it down, and then you have some wire to work with right here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this would have been a lot easier if I would have just put the wire in first before I even started to do anything, and then had it secured up here. Like, for example, I would have had all the wire that I needed out here to be able to wrap onto the spark plug wire, and then secured my exits up here with some tape, and then I wouldn't have to be going through all this trouble of fishing it through. All right, so learn from not necessarily a mistake, but a better way to do it, if I do it again, would be that way. By putting this wire in first, securing part of it here with tape, and then wrapping it around, and then your wire is already here. And you don't have to worry about having to fish it through. So now I'm going to go ahead and take some of this insulation off so that we can splice these two together and I can pull it up. As you can see, we got our wires right here. Let me hurry up and splice this so I can show you the sunrise. Look at that. It just made it over that ridge over there. So the day has begun. Beautiful day, by the way. Look at that. I've seen an eagle around here a couple of times, but they're not very common to see around here. All right, let's get back to work. All right, so now we have it spliced together pretty well. Let's just make sure, let's hope that this hole is big enough for it to fit through. I'm hoping it is. We will see though. It might take a couple of tries. I have no idea. Just don't want to really force it. I want to hopefully pull it through nice and easy. And there we go. Came right out. See that? So we got this out, no problem. Now we're almost done. Let's go ahead and take these off. No problem here. So we are good right here. All we have to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is connect this to the wire. And let me show you how easy that is. All you do is just slip it through this little slot that it's got back here and push it through. That's it. That's as easy as it is right there. So now all I do is just pull it right there. I want to go ahead and make sure. I want to make sure that I give my wire a little bit of slack. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go like this. Give it just a little bit of slack to make sure that it doesn't come off from any vibration. And as you can see, there's plenty of slack in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these two little self-tapping screws that they provide you with and screw it right onto the top here, onto the plastic. All right, so we want to make sure that we have it in the position that we want it, which is going to be right there. I'm going to put my screw in there. And I'm going to take my little itty bitty screwdriver and bring it in there. And there you go. That one side is on. Now you don't want to continue to drill it or to screw it in there because these are self-tapping, but it's only plastic holding it in there. Now it does have a very good fit. All right, it's very sturdy. But if you continue to spin that screw around, just because your drill is not stopping or the screw is not stopping, it's just going to go ahead and bore a hole in this plastic and it's going to be loose. So now we'll go ahead and do our second one. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, it is on. This hour meter is now installed. All we have to do is trim that little bit of wire off. We're going to go ahead and put this back together and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's working. All right, let's go ahead and start our generator. First thing we need to do is Make sure that our vent is on for the fuel. Make sure that our fuel supply is on. Make sure that our on button is on. And I like to start it on what I like to call rabbit mode or fast mode. And of course our choke needs to be on. All right, here we go. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and put it on slow. All right, there we go. It's not that noisy when it's not on fast. This is on slow mode or eco mode. I'm going to turn the generator around so that you can check and see if the hour meter is working or not. That way you'll know how it works. So there you go. As you can see, the hour meter is working. If you see that little flashing icon where it says hours, above where it says hours, that means that it's recording the time that the generator is on. I'm going to go ahead and let this generator run for about 6 or 7 minutes. That way you'll see that after about 6 or 7 minutes, which is 1/10 of 1 hour, you'll see that there should be a number 1 on the right hand side of the hour meter. All right, so I'm going to come back after it's run for about 6 or 7 minutes. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It just turned over to that 1. So you see for every 6 minutes that the generator runs, you'll get 1/10 of an hour reading on your hour meter. That's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you got something out of this, and I really hope I didn't make it look harder than what it really is. In my opinion, the hardest part was getting that wire through that hole. But once I figured out that I could fish it out of there, very easy. And as you can see, everything was easy. There's really nothing that's very expensive that you have to put into being able to maintain your generator for long term. So everything that you see here, the hour meter, the magnetic oil dipstick, and the stable, I will leave on my Amazon storefront for anyone that wants to just go there, check it out, and purchase it. It does help to support the channel whenever you use my Amazon link, so I truly do appreciate it. Again, I hope you got something out of this. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I'm out.